up, YouTube? Crash Wilcox. And today I got something that I'm going to be doing for the first time. I've built plenty of computers in the past. Hopefully you guys have watched some of those videos. But today I'm going to be delidding my first CPU. So if you watched my previous video on the kind of the go anywhere, do anything PC that I built in the Fractal Design Node 2, this will look familiar to you. And if you haven't watched that video, come on, go watch the video. Then it's not awkward. It'll be up here somewhere. Go check that out and then get back to me. But this was the Node 202 that we built, and the CPU we used in it is a i7-8700K. A lot of CPU for a very small package, and I know something about that. So today we're going to be taking this thing apart, delidding it in an effort to bring these temps down, because this thing is a blazing inferno inside of this case. So we knew that kind of going in, that it was going to be hot, and that's why we kind of preemptively bought these tools to delid this CPU. So what we're going to be using today, I went on Amazon and I bought the Rockit 88 delid and relid kit. It was about 30 some bucks. I'll have the price down here, but it has good reviews. It's a pretty simple looking kit. Something to keep in mind though, this doesn't come with instructions. So if you're thinking about delidding, this is obviously a good place to come to. I will have a quick tutorial, you'll be watching it, on how to use this, but also just keep that in mind that you're gonna have to have an idea of how to use this thing going in. And then, like I said, it doesn't come with instructions, but it does come with this fancy little suede bag, so you can keep your stuff in style. And then, obviously, I'm not a savvy vet at delidding, so I'm just going with what everybody seems to use, and that's your Thermal Grizzly Conducto knot. Everybody speaks highly of it, so that's a good place to start. So we're going to be using that to add to the die of the CPU. And then just to reseal the IHS, just your standard silicone sealant, nothing fancy there, but that's what we'll be using. And then the last thing that I picked up is plastic razor blades, just to be a little more cautious when I'm removing the previous adhesive on the PCB. I don't want to be too rough, so we got some plastic scraper blades is what they're called at Walmart. Nothing fancy there. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get this CPU pulled out, and then we're going to bring you guys back here and get ready for this delidding process. All right, so here we go. We got the CPU pulled out of the motherboard and everything set up, ready for us to start this delidding process. So what you need, grab the main body of your Rockit 88 delid kit, and what you want to do, if you can see that they have the arrow pointing down here in the lower left corner, all you're going to be doing is matching up the arrow on your CPU with the arrow in the delid kit. Just like that. And then you're going to place the body of it. Make sure you pull this little pry bar out of the way, whatever they call that. Just set that there. And then you are going to be putting these screws in so that it doesn't move. And then they give you this little Allen wrench that you can use to finish tightening these down. From what I gather, this doesn't need to be, crazy tight. Just, you don't want it to move around. So there's that. So now you can see you got the CPU down in there, and then you're just gonna tighten that little pry bar down. So there it is, it's tight on there. And then we're going to take this larger Allen wrench and just sort of put it in here and twist it. And let's see if we can maybe hear it pop or see it move. Nope, there it goes. All right, so let's pull this back out and let's see what we got. Again, just make sure that's out of the way. Oh, you can just see it already start to slide off of there. Good heavens. So there it is, delidded. So now we are just going to go ahead and get this thing cleaned off. And I didn't mention it earlier, but really all we're going to use, actually I'm going to use this to keep this set in here. All we're going to use to clean off this IHS and the PCB here is just some rubbing alcohol and some cotton swabs. That's all you're going to need. And then, like I said, our razor blade, our plastic razor blade, and then they actually included this little wooden, it's got a tip on it and then sort of a flat edge on the back. So we'll be using this as well probably. But all right, so you can see we got it pretty well cleaned off. And then also on the PCB, looks pretty clean. I mean, you can still see some of the residue there, but that shouldn't be a big factor. Now, one thing that you'll see sometimes that people will do is they will cover these little pins right here with nail polish to prevent that from, having some of the liquid metal go on there and then potentially shorten out the CPU. I'm not going to do that, probably because I'm an idiot, but I'm just going to instead try to be cautious. So, got that there. Got our thermal grizzly conducto knot. We are just going to put on this little micro applicator, whatever they call it. And basically you just want to put one small little dot. There you go. And then just grab one of our little Q-tip applicators, and this is where you want to be very slow about spreading this stuff out. You don't need a lot. So there's that, and then we are just going to put a small drop on the IHS as well, and you can sort of see where the contact was being made before, sort of in that area. We're just going to kind of put a little strip down here in the middle. Doesn't have to cover that whole area. Actually, you may not, because you can see there's a little bit of excess on here. Sort of move that into the middle a little bit. And then we are going to apply our silicone. And again, you don't need a ton of this. You're just trying to hold the IHS on there, and it doesn't need to be held on terribly tight. And then we're going to leave this little corner here to kind of give it some extra space for heat to escape, because you don't want it to get trapped under there. So then, from what I gather, you take this piece and you just place it on top. Should click in, I believe. There you go. Just like that. And now you're going to take your IHS, and this is essentially going to allow you to plop it straight down on there. Just like so. And then this, I believe, only goes on one way. So it's got to go on like this, I believe. And all this is doing is just applying some pressure onto the IHS to help it seal the silicone. So again, you don't need a ton of pressure, you just want to get it seated on there so that it seals right. So and then that's what this bigger screw is for. And there it is, getting tight. Just gonna crank it down a little bit more. There you go, and now let's see. And that's that. So from this point, we're just gonna let it sit. Let this sit for an hour or two, and then we'll come out and throw it all back together and see how it goes. I'll give you guys some of the benchmarks for before the delidding and then after the delidding. And I didn't do a super intensive stress test, just Cinebench, because that hits all your cores to 100%, just to see kind of quickly, you know, what the change in temperature is going to be. So, and then probably maybe a gain benchmark or something like that. But that's it. I'll see you guys in a couple hours. So here goes that first Cinebench benchmark before we delidded the CPU, and I got HP monitor. I'm just running on the side so you guys can see the temps. And I've ran this a few times so you can see over there the min and the max temperatures. And obviously it doesn't start out hot. You know, the high 30s I think is fine, but it climbs pretty quickly, and you're going to see that just in one pass. So I believe that max temperature I had run Cinebench 2-3 times. And I know that there's other tests that you can run, Prime 95, IDA64, and those sorts of things, but I think Cinebench is simple. I mean, you can see it pegs all the CPU cores to 100%. And then if you look just below that, the clocks, it's running about 4.3. I just have it set to auto. So you can see how hot this thing is getting without overclocking and just on the very first pass. So once you run this thing a time or two and it's been running at 100% for a few minutes, it gets, you know, it starts pegging those 100-degree Celsius, which is not where you want your CPU to be. But all in all, it scores well, 33-46, so that's not too bad. throwing it back in here to Cinebench and seeing how we're running. Again, this is just running at auto, and we haven't changed anything. So you can still see over there the idle temperatures. The minimum temperatures are pretty much the same, high 30s. But you'll see it's a pretty stark improvement just in the delidding process for this CPU. And I've obviously run it a time or two, so that's where you get those max temperatures of the 80s. But you're going to see this is pretty much where this CPU stays throughout the Cinebench run. And you can run it a little bit longer. I've done this test a handful of times already, and these temperatures stay relatively the same through 5, 6, 7 different tests. So you'll have to take my word for it, but this is a pretty accurate representation of what I've seen. So yeah, that's, you're talking a 20 degrees Celsius drop just from the delidding process. So for me, it worked. I'm super happy with that. And see, I mean, the scores, again, they don't get much higher. They stay relatively the same, but that's because it's just running in auto. So yep, 33, 32, not bad. We delidded this. Now the last thing that I'm going to do is, if you see right here next to me, I'm going to go ahead and try to throw a few extra fans in here, try to cram as much airflow into this thing as I possibly can. So what we got right here is, let me set this down. I picked up one Noctua 80 millimeter fan. So check this thing out, and God bless you, Noctua. Noctua is like the cooling brand version of EVGA. So if you're not sure what to get, just go with EVGA, go with Noctua. If they make a product, just get it because it works and it's awesome. So got a little Noctua 80 millimeter fan here. And what we're gonna do with this one is, pull it back up. We're gonna try to put that right here, right over the intake, which sits right over the CPU cooler. Not sure if it's gonna fit. We're gonna try to make it fit. So try to put that here as sort of an intake to just get some extra air pushed in here on top of this cooler. And then we got here two Noctua 40 millimeter fans. So let's see. I mean, Noctua just does it right, man. I mean, packaging on the front, on the back, you just can't go wrong, man. Noctua is fantastic. And these little fans, hopefully they serve the purpose that we need. I mean, they are itty bitty, but look at that packaging. I mean, they come with fan extensions. These are like anti-vibration standoffs we're not going to use, but here's a little fan. So we got two of these, and we are going to be installing those. If you can see this here on the top, sort of as exhaust to try to get some of that extra air out. So got 3 fans to install right now. I'm not going to film that part. I'm going to go ahead and just get these thrown in, and then I will show you guys what that final product looks like. All right, so we got it put back together. If you guys can see right here, I could only get 3 of the 4 screws installed because it doesn't necessarily line up perfectly. And I also had to remove one of the dust filters, but that's not a big deal. Really, I mean, I take pretty good care of my computer, so I'm always, dusting them and stuff like that. So not that big of a deal. So we got the 180 millimeter right here. It just fits. Not a lot of wiggle room between that and the CPU cooler, but it does fit. And then up top here, you can see we got the 2 40 millimeter fans exhausting some of the air. So it doesn't make it look better, but again, this is my computer, and this isn't for anybody else. This is just for me trying to get the best performance that I can out of it. So now that we got everything hooked up, we're gonna go throw it back on the monitors maybe run through a few benchmarks to see if it keeps a little bit cooler. So I'll see you guys here at the benchmarks. CPU that's been delidded. I've installed 3 additional fans, and it's been undervolted to, I believe, about 0.95 volts or something like that. Still on auto, but man, look at those temperatures. I mean, when we first put it in there, it was pegging 100 degrees Celsius on the first pass. And as you guys can see down here on the bottom, this is the 4th pass so far of Cinebench. So these CPU cores have been pegged at 100% now for, I mean, only 5 minutes or so like that. But still, this is a drastic improvement from where we started when we first dropped this 8700K in. And performance-wise, you can see over on the side 3317. For the score. Score isn't getting much higher. It's staying relatively the same, but the temperatures are under control, which because of that, it's led me to actually overclock the CPU a little bit. I think I have it running at right around 4.5 gigahertz on all cores, and it does pretty well. Still stays under 80 degrees C, so there you go, man. She's running like a champ.